Welcome to the first video of the exam series for foreign pharmacists in the US. The very first exam that you're going to take as a foreign pharmacist in US is your TOEFL ibt. It is a computerized test conducted by the Educational Testing Services, the ETS, and will cost you about $255. So I'm going to be breaking down this video into two main sections. The first part, which I cannot emphasize much, is knowing the structure of the exam, which is very, very important, and you cannot pass your exam if you don't know how much time is allotted for each section. TOEFL is comprised of 4 sections: the reading, listening, speaking, and writing. And according to the National Boards of Associations of Pharmacy, out of 30, you are supposed to get the following marks in these sections. And if you are wondering how to register for TOEFL ibt, then watch my previous video. The good news is that the TOEFL ibt has been shortened from 3 hours to 2 hours now, and it is offered 5 to 6 times in a month, which makes it super convenient to take it whenever you want. And now the second part, which is the tips to ace the exam that I'll be discussing with each section. Stick to the video till the very end because I'm going to be sharing a bonus speaking tip that is not present in the book. I prepared from this book, which is the TOEFL ibt by the Princeton Review, and this was the key to passing my exam. You can easily get it from any bookshop, or you can also issue it from your library. The reading portion is comprised of 2 passages on different topics with 10 questions per passage, and you will be given a total of 18 minutes to answer those 10 questions per passage. So there are 10 different types of questions that you can expect on your reading section. The first one is the vocabulary question, which will simply ask you about the meaning of a word in a passage. Now the second one is the reference question. They will give you a phrase and you will be simply required to answer what this phrase refers to in the paragraph. The third one is the lead question, where they will ask you about a specific detail in the passage by mentioning a specific phrase or word. Then you will see a paraphrase question where they will highlight a text and will ask you what best expresses the information in the highlighted text. In this question type, they will simply ask you the definition of the word mentioned in the passage. Then comes the sentence insertion question. They will give you a sentence and will ask you to insert it in the paragraph where it makes the best possible sense. Then comes the rhetorical purpose question, where they will ask you in paragraph 4, what does the author mean by a specific word or phrase? Then you will have a negative factual question where they will ask you about a detail that is not present in a paragraph. They would mention except or not in their question. So be careful to read that. Now comes the inference question, which is the trickiest to answer. So they would ask you, let's say, what can be inferred from paragraph 4 regarding the impeachment of a government official? You can also rephrase it as, what can be implied from paragraph 4 regarding the impeachment of a government official? Just remember, the answer won't be mentioned clearly in the paragraph, so you would have to read the paragraph very carefully. Now, there would be wrong answer choices, which would actually look very attractive. So be sure to eliminate those choices and pick the answer choice that is actually mentioned in your paragraph. Now the last question, which is the toughest to answer, and it actually contains the highest marks too. They will give you 6 options and you would be required to pick 3 of them. Now for this question, you have to pick the answer choices that express the important ideas in the passage. Now there's one trick to it that works 90% of the times. There's always a bold statement present at the end of the main idea questions. Like in this example, you can see the bold statement that says, Mandela art has ancient roots and has a therapeutic role in humans. Now you can pick keywords from this statement. Now in this example, we have the keywords ancient roots and therapeutic role. Now your answer choices are supposed to revolve around these 2 keywords. Now look at the first answer choice that talks about the origin of Mandela art. Now this answer choice is closely aligned to the keyword ancient roots. Now pick this choice. The second one talks about how children draw circles in their art. So this has nothing to do with our 2 main keywords. So eliminate this choice. Eliminate the third one too. Now look at the fourth choice that talks about the usage of Mandela art in ancient traditions and religion. So this closely aligns with our first keyword. Pick this choice. The fifth choice talks about how Carl Jung found importance of Mandela art in treating his patients. So this is closely aligned to our second keyword, the therapeutic role. Pick this choice. Eliminate the last choice too. So you see, just by looking at the bold statement and picking out the right keywords, you were able to pick out the right answer choices. Now some of the tips for the reading section. The first tip is do not, I repeat, do not read the whole passage in detail. Instead, skim through the paragraphs and just take a general idea of what each paragraph talks about. For example, the topic is the exoskeleton of the insects. The first paragraph will give an introduction to the exoskeleton. The second paragraph might talk about the biochemistry of the exoskeleton. The third paragraph will introduce examples of the insects that possess an exoskeleton. So you should just have a general idea of what each paragraph talks about. So when they ask you a question, you know what paragraph to look at. The second tip is to look for extreme modifiers, like always, never, impossible, all, or none. As in reality, things are rarely 100% correct or incorrect. So do not pick the options that contain extreme modifiers. The third tip is to not select the option that introduces a new detail that is not present in your passage, even though if it looks good. Now the listening part, where you will be given 3 academic and 2 conversations. Each audio will be 3 to 5 minutes long, containing 6 questions per audio, and you will be given a total of 36 minutes to answer those questions. The first tip is to listen to the audio with a purpose in mind. You should know the structure and arrangement of lectures and conversations. The structure for the lectures is first the introduction to the topic, then the teacher will transition to the examples, and then will conclude her lecture. For the conversations, there would be a greeting, then a statement of problem presented by one person, and the response of another person, and finally the resolution to the problem. So when you know the arrangement of your lectures, you will know what to expect and what to actually write in your notes. The second tip is do not, I repeat, do not write each and everything in your notes. There would be a lot of off-topic conversations, but remember to know your purpose and use active listening to filter out the information that you need to know for your question. The third tip is to actually use shortcuts or abbreviations for your words rather than writing the full word or sentence in your notes, just like how we do in text messages. This will save you a lot of time. And the last tip is to not write too much, because that way you will miss on listening to a lot of information. So balance your note-taking with your ability to comprehend the lectures. Before moving on to the second half of the video, if you are finding these tips helpful, then subscribe to my channel to show your support. The entire speaking section will be 16 minutes long, and you will see 1 independent task and 2 integrated tasks. The independent task will ask you a general question and you will answer based on your preference. So you will be given 15 seconds to prepare and 45 seconds to speak. In the next 2 integrated speaking tasks, you will be given a passage to read, and then you will hear audio on the same topic. Then you will be given 30 seconds to prepare and 60 seconds to respond. As for the last integrated task, you will listen to a lecture, and then they will ask you a question, and you will respond based on what you heard in the lecture. So you will be given 20 seconds to prepare and 60 seconds to respond. Now I know the speaking is the toughest part for the foreigners, but by knowing few tips, you will be able to score a 30 in your speaking. The first tip is to not sound nervous or rushing. Always sound confident. Even if you made a mistake, don't let one mistake pause or ruin your whole answer. Now the second tip is personal favorite, which is the usage of templates. Believe me, templates are super helpful in starting your question, transitioning to examples, and concluding your answer beautifully. Now, there are some templates available in the book, and I will also provide in the description as well. The third tip is to not use filler words like ums and ahs. Now, I know they don't expect you to speak the perfect English, but try to minimize those filler words. The next tip is actually very helpful, which is to time and record yourself. You can also ask a member of your family or friends to give you a certain set of questions and then you speak in front of them. This will really help you boost your confidence. The last tip, which is very, very important, is to not get stuck on the details. Now, there would be few lectures which will involve a lot of details, but you will have to minimize those details in your answer because you will only have 60 seconds to respond. Now comes the last section, which is the writing section, and it is 30 minutes long. You will see one integrated task and one writing for an academic discussion. In the integrated task, you will read a passage, listen to a lecture, and then write your response between 150 to 225 words. Now, in the academic task, which is 10 minutes long, you will read a passage and then write your response. The first tip for the writing section is to organize your essay. Start off with an introduction, state your purpose, transition to examples, and then conclude your answer beautifully. The second tip is the usage of templates. Just like in the speaking section, it will help you structure your essay. Now the third tip, which is a grammar-related tip, is to use simple present tense throughout your essay. And for the examples, you can switch to simple past or past perfect tense. And now the last tip, which is to turn off the spell check. Remember, you won't have a spell check turned on your test day. So it is really important to practice with your spell check turned off. Now it's time for the bonus speaking tip that I promised. Since it's a computerized test, so everyone starts their test at a slightly different time. But everyone present in the room would have the same test, which means there would be students who would have started their tests way before you. So they would be shown their speaking section earlier than you, which will give you a slight idea on what questions are actually present in the speaking section. So you would have some extra time to prepare for those questions. Thank you for sticking to my video till the very end. If you found this video helpful, then subscribe to my channel, share with your friends, and see you in the next video.